Some people seem to be surprised by the level of detail and the level of skill involved in really being able to use a sword. So I'd like you to talk about that a little bit today.
Level of detail.
Level of detail.
Details. Tell you a story. I know a guy got shot in the chest. This is back a few years. Got shot in the chest. Close range. He survived it. He's still around. He's out there doing his stuff, just like nothing ever happened. His surgeon says that if that round had entered 1/16 of an inch farther to the left, he'd have been dead on the scene. Take your ruler out, measure off 1/16 of an inch. That's details. So, yeah, the devil's in the details, man. Everything's in the details. There's to execute any skill at a very high level requires attention to details that other people don't even know exist. And they are sometimes extremely subtle. This is why fencing is a lousy spectator sport if you do it right, because the best stuff is impossible to see. It's so small, so tight, so subtle. It's like, oh, what happened? You have to know what you're looking for. You have to know what's going to happen before it happens and see it happen. Right? It's like a good rider. Watch him on his horse. That horse may do all kinds of stuff. You know, walk, trot, canter, turn, spin, whatever. And that rider looks like he's holding absolutely still. Nothing moves. The only person who is seeing those cues is the horse. You know, everybody else is going, wow, how do you do that? You just didn't see the cue because it was too subtle for you. So that's details, man. That's details. And, you know, little things are very, very difficult to cultivate. The higher the level of skill, the more attention to detail, you know, and the finer the adjustments. It's not when you try to rise to another level of skill, you don't do it by learning a bunch of new shit. You do it by refining what you thought you already knew. Check this out. If you follow boxing or if you don't follow boxing, tune into a boxing match where they have the commentators, you know, running their mouths before the fight for half an hour, you know, and they'll ask the fighters, oh, how are you preparing for this fight? What have you been working on? What have you been working on? Count how many times a fighter will say, well, I've been working on my jab. See, that's the first fucking punch he learned when he came into the boxing gym. And 10 years later, he's working on his jab at a championship level. See what I'm saying? So, yeah, any jamoke can go into the gym on day one and, yeah, I can throw a jab. Well, can you? You think you're throwing a jab. Now let's compare your jab to, I don't know, Larry Holmes' jab, where he knocks a guy on his ass with his jab. Any difference there, you think? It's in the details. The detail is that when you execute your skill at a high level, everything is in perfect alignment. Everything. And there's not one glitch. Most of us, you know, if we're down at the 90% performance level, you know, we got 90% of it right, but there's 10% glitch. And you got to get rid of that glitch, right, to get it up to the level you want. Is this making any sense at all?
So how do you do that? How do you get it?
How do you do that? I'll tell you how you do that. You don't do that. Somebody else does it for you. That's why boxers have trainers and swordsmen have masters that they count on, right? Because you cannot do that for yourself. When I was a freshman, back, you know, when dinosaurs walked the earth, when I was a freshman majoring in music, And I had the wonderful experience of having voice lessons from Mr. Simpkins. That's a story in itself. But the point is, in these voice lessons, I'd be working on a thing, caro mio ben, and he'd be right there, and just as I was about to fuck up, he would fix it. He'd give me the cue: stand up straight, open up. He had all this little shorthand. He was like a third base coach, right? He was doing this. I didn't know if he wanted me to enunciate or steal third. I wasn't sure. Anyway, you always perform the way you practice. So if you practice your mistakes, guess what you're going to do when you perform? So you have to correct these mistakes before you make them. That's what a voice teacher does. That's what a boxing coach, that's what a fencing master does. When I take you for a lesson, I don't let you make a mistake if I can help it. I see where you're going, and I correct you before you make that mistake, so you don't ever make it. You don't ever practice your mistakes. You only practice perfect execution. That's my job. My job is to make that happen. You can't do that for yourself because you have to be in the moment. You have to be in the moment. You can't be thinking about what you're doing. That takes you out of the moment. You have to be there. You have to feel. You have to feel the steel. You have to be in the moment. My job is to be out of the moment, be thinking ahead, be thinking back, be looking at you, checking the weather, checking the temperature, all that stuff, right? That's my job. So you don't have to do it because you can't do it for yourself. You might be able to do it for somebody else if you know what you're doing, but you can't do it for yourself. So that's how you train for that. You have to have somebody who knows what they're doing, who can help you with your practice so that you don't practice your mistakes at all in the first place. You don't want to have to try and correct errors. You don't want to correct bad habits that you make. Man, it's a ton of work to try and fix that shit. It is much, much easier to learn it right the first time and not make those errors, not develop those bad habits that now you have to, try and undo or learn a way around them or substitute a skill for that one. Learn it right the first time. Learn it right in the first place. Don't practice mistakes. Is that making any sense? I feel like I'm sitting here like Yoda.
So, what am I supposed to do if there isn't anybody where I am who can teach me at that level?
If there's nobody where you are that can teach you at that level, then you go where there's somebody who can teach you at that level. You think they're going to come to you? You're out in the middle of bumfuck someplace, and some magical fencing master from who knows where is going to just truck out to the boonies where you are just to teach you? Golly, what an important person you are. Right? That ain't going to happen. So, yeah, if you want to be a fisherman, you got to go where the fish are, man. It's that simple. It's not, it's not a value judgment. And you have to decide what you want to do. If you want to be a fighter at the highest possible level you can achieve, you got to get yourself to a trainer who can take you up to that level. Or forget about it. You don't have to do it. That's your decision, right? You can decide to shoot for the championship, or you can decide to say, look, I'm okay being a local club fighter. I'm cool with that. I'm the toughest guy in bumfuck. I'm good with that. Right? You got to decide. That's all.